Awesome. Perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Raymond Braun. I am a YouTube creator, and I have a channel, youtube.com/Raymond Braun, that's all about showcasing LGBTQ stories. And so I was so honored and excited to be invited here, Houston, Texas, Rice University, for the True Colors Foundation Summit, all about discussing LGBTQ youth and the issues that they face, with a particular focus on LGBTQ youth homelessness and how we can prevent that. This is the 40 to None Summit here in Houston, Texas. And I want to say hi to the Google Plus audience who I'm looking at right now, and the Periscope audience who I'm looking at over here. We're doing a transmedia dialogue so that as many people can access this conversation, this really important dialogue, as possible. So you can watch from either space, whatever your preference is, whatever's faster for your bandwidth. We're on Google Plus, and we're also on Periscope, my personal Periscope, which is @Raymond Braun. And so where we're at right now is the forum just finished. I hope that all of you had a chance to watch it. So many powerful stories. And what we're going to do now is just wait for the panelists one by one to come up, and I'm going to continue the dialogue with them. So I have my laptop right here, where I'm going to be asking questions that you can submit using hashtag #OutYouthForum. I also have some questions of my own, and I'm really excited. So I hear footsteps, and we have our first guest. Come on over.
We're a little late.
No, thank you so much. Incredible dialogue that we just had. Do you want to introduce yourself first to, oh, hello, oh, we have the whole crew coming in.
We're all here.
Awesome. This is great. So Nicholas, how do you want to do this? Do we want to do one-on-ones, or do you want to just have the whole group in dialogue together?
I'm cool doing the whole group thing.
Okay, that's great.
Let's
do it. All right, so everyone just came at once. This is really exciting. I'm going to move the camera back a little bit so that we can fit everyone in here, and then we're just going to get right into this row here. Stagger it too.
We all look like Beyonce, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we've got that really nice soft mood lighting over here. It looks like there's only 3 of us right now who are in frame. So maybe we can move the camera back a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe get a little close and personal.
Okay, that's great. Because we have the camera here and then the monitors right over here. Hello, everyone. Hi, Roxanne. Do you want to? No, we want to definitely get you in here. What we could also stagger.
In here, you should move your computer back and put that back there.
The camera's coming from here.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm plugged in.
Okay.
Over there.
Okay.
You have nothing. Sorry.
We can move it around as we're chatting.
Yeah, we can move around. If you want to stagger, we can
rearrange.
have. If we want to put some chairs. Sorry, technical. We're doing a live show right now. We can put some chairs right here. If anyone wants to come sit up here, we can stagger a little bit.
So like 15 minutes to be official.
Okay. Hi, Periscope. Well, while we're getting set up, I can go ahead and get started with some questions. And then Nicholas, just let me know if you want me to move my chair or move my pen or anything. I think the first thing that I just wanted to share is that for me, today's been one of, I think, the most important, moving, powerful days I've ever experienced, because it's just been incredibly humbling to hear all the stories and the information and the education that's been passed on today. So many really strong, talented, intelligent people that are sharing their own experiences and opening up about those, and also providing solutions and ideas about how we can improve conditions for LGBTQ everywhere and really take that 40% to none, which is all of our shared goals. So I think what we'll do to start is, for any of you who are just joining or who weren't able to watch the State of Youth Forum earlier, I want to have everyone introduce themselves again briefly. And then we can kind of open up with some questions from the audience and from Twitter and social media after that. So do we want to start with Roxanne over here, holding Periscope? No, just introducing yourself. Yeah, exactly. Do you want to just introduce yourself and where you're from? Yeah, you can do it. You can do it.
Hi,
We got 2
Roxanne
screens.
Jack, 23, Bemidji, Minnesota.
Awesome.
Hi, my name is Ziggy. I was on the State About Youth panel last year, and I came to join you guys this year. Look how that worked out.
Tone, I'm 18, go to UC Berkeley, and pronouns they, them, theirs.
Raymond, hello again, everyone.
Christopher, I'm from Houston. I live in Washington, D.C. I work on the Hill, and I got to join these awesome people for State About Youth.
Soul 21, I'm from New York City.
So this question is for anyone, but what were some of the key themes that emerged for you in today's State About Youth discussion, and that you'd want to highlight now?
I think one of the really big things that I took away from all of your stories, which each and every one of them were incredibly amazing, was the need for us to meet people where they're at. And each of your stories, you all had things that you talked about indicated that we're just not there yet, that we have a system that is built for one person and then one size fits all, and you got to look a certain way, you got to act a certain way and behave a certain way. And even when we're trying to provide services in that system, those programs and the things that we try to do, shelters and other things, we typically want people to fit that bill as well. That just doesn't work for many of us, and your story certainly illustrated that. That was my big takeaway.
One of the big takeaways I had was like the need for representation and how that is so necessary for like the survival of like our community, to know that there are other people struggling with what they are struggling with, and other people who are similar in ways that they're similar. So yeah.
Do any of you have stories about someone who you identified with as you were going through personal struggles or challenges, who were role models for you or who gave you some sort of vision or idea of what your future could look like? I know that we've been talking about the lack of representation as a major issue here, but I'm wondering if there are any people that had kind of served as that beacon or that light for you.
Yes, I think I can speak about my social worker from Canyon Lord Community Health Community Center in New York City. He's somebody who really helped me, you know, because when I come here for the first time and they start to go to the young center, to the LGBT center, I wasn't like good, you know, like because I just get here and I think too much about my family, and I think about the fact I have nobody here. It wasn't easy for me, but all the time when I go to this center or this health community center, T was a person who like he just told me, oh, everything gonna be okay, you know, like just you have to move on and everything gonna come step by step, you know. And all the time when I go over there to speak with you, I feel like more strong. And now things happen. Now I start my paperwork to get contract with Lambda Legal. So I'm just waiting for appointment with immigration and try to go back to school, because since I left San Francisco, I didn't go back to school because I didn't have like financial assistance. Now I'm happy to be with you.
And thank you so much for sharing your story with everyone. It brought a really, I think, unique and important perspective to the mix that we had today. Do any of you have stories around a role model, a person kind of in your own life who helped you and was one of those initial people that gave you some inspiration, or someone maybe that you saw in media? A little bit?
A little bit. So as far as people I look up to like my adopted brother, because my mom has two other kids, my brother and his sister. And for reasons I can't explain, I was always weird compared to everybody else. But my brother would be like, oh, you're 6. You want to go in the sprinklers. Take off your shirt and go in the sprinklers. Because he realized that pink Barbie bathing suit wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to work. That's just, and like, if anything, I can thank him for, he didn't know it, but he was letting me be me before I knew who I really was as a person, because they'd force me into all these unfortunate outfits. And they'd like call me by my name, all types of crazy. And like, you know, because when you're little, there is no like non-binary when you're little. There's just, you're in the girls line, go stand over there and take the pink book and be fine.
Yes.
And he was more like, I outgrew the Spider-Man shirt, you can have it, and we can cut your name in half. So instead of it being your whole name, you can be Ziggy. And if that works for you, then it works for me, because you're gonna listen to me and you're gonna make a whole lot less noise.
That's great. And Ziggy, do you want to share a little bit more about your story, your journey? Because we didn't hear that today as part of the forum.
Sure, yeah. I'm 21 and I'm from New York, and I have cerebral palsy, which is, yeah. It means that the part of my brain that controls like movement and motor skills doesn't work the way it's supposed to, but it's cool. And I was homeless when I was 13 and on and off until I was around 16, 17. And yep, there's probably more to that, but
Well, if you have any questions for Ziggy or for any of the panelists, you can tweet them at me and at True Colors using the hashtag OutYouthForum. And while Ziggy was speaking, we had another very special guest join, Miss Daniela Carter. Hi, Daniela, one of the co-moderators for the forum. Thanks again for being here. And for those of you who follow me, you know that you already know Daniela because we also did a YouTube video together a couple of months ago. So we started out just talking about some key themes, trends, things that people learned during the forum today. And one question, because I've been monitoring the hashtag during all of your kind of discussions and presentations and since this has started, and we've got a lot of questions around kind of self-care enduring difficult situations, overcoming difficult situations. And through a lot of your stories, I think that that's one key theme is kind of triumphing over adversity and really challenging scenarios. And so I'm hoping that we could go down the line and just, if any of you could share some tips or things that you found really helpful for yourself when it felt like the entire world around you was kind of against you and there wasn't a lot of hope. Like, what was that thing that helped you kind of keep going, find that resource to get where you are now? Do you want to start, Danielle?
Everybody's always putting me on the spot.
We know you can handle it.
Self-care for me looks like, I guess, one thing that I try to do is affirm myself. I think that's very important. Like, there's times that my dysphoria is so bad that it's like I just feel like I want to kill myself. I feel like I don't belong and I'll never ever be a part of community. But what I've learned is that as long as I understand myself and I accept myself in a way that I'm not focused on everybody else's beliefs. Where I remember saying one time is that I have to learn to accept everything that people don't. And so for me, it's so important to know that, like, you live in a world where it doesn't really matter, honestly, whether you're trans, whether you're gay, whether you're non-binary, whether you're black, you're white, you will always be different to someone. And it's time that we stop internalizing the difference as negative and start looking at it as positive. And that's by being mindful, telling yourself, you know, I am understanding of this, but this is not who I am. I have no control over the rest of the world. I can fight and argue to the end, but that doesn't do anything. That brings visibility. That's awareness, but that's not changing the reality. So now you gotta ask yourself, how am I changing my reality? Did I tell myself that I was worthy enough to go look for a job, to go find friends who will accept me? Because if you continue to live in the negativity, you'll never love yourself. So self-care for me is affirmation.
Yes. Does anyone else want to care? Does anyone else want to share a self-care anecdote or strategy that's worked?
I know for me, like, when I was at the lowest of my lows, like, I know it's been said, but just talking to someone, like being in the presence of another person so that you're not alone, you're not bombarding yourself with these thoughts, these negative thoughts, because you're your own harshest critic. So when you're with someone else, just hearing, like, just like having them there to talk to, and like it grounds you, like, you know, like, I have an importance here, someone cares about me, someone's willing to listen to me, like, just surrounding yourself with another person, whoever that person may be, or maybe not a person, maybe a cat or a dog or a stuffed animal, but just like something, just so you know that, you know, you're not alone, you know. I think that's so important.
To piggyback off what you said, having someone to talk to is like everything. Like, I know a lot of times today, everyone's asking me about like my bracelets, and each bracelet I wear represents a different person, and this one represents me because it's a bunch of rocks being tied together. Because in my head, I'm a parachute, and my friends are the things that keep me grounded, or like a hot air balloon. My friends are the weights that keep the hot air balloon on the ground, and like, I love them so much because they're like my own personal support system. That, and like having some type of hobby too, like, is self-care. Like, the people that someone thinks it's rude to like have your headphones, but sometimes you just need your headphones and the quiet of looking out the window. Sometimes that's just your thing, because sometimes you're just overwhelmed, and that one thing can snap you back to reality so quickly and make you feel so much better about the day itself. That people have to realize they have their own like mechanisms to deal with things.
One of the things that we've just talked about and that came up a lot today was the idea of having someone, an ally that you can speak with and who can help affirm you and support you. And one question would be, how can someone find, thank you, Danielle. How can you find an ally? say that we have someone watching who's living in a small, isolated community. They don't see a lot of role models or visibly LGBTQ people. What are some strategies for people to find that supportive person to listen?
I don't know. I've lived in Houston and in Washington. No, I did grow up though in West Texas. Don't go there if you're watching this. Stay away from that. I think it's hard. I personally had trouble finding role models in that places. I think the best advice I would give somebody is just get up out of there if you can. But I do think that each community though has caring people, and if you're looking for allies, I think that they're everywhere. I think that we have educated the public enough. We have done enough where we at least have got to have people in almost all places that can be caring and affirming. But I think it's maybe looking outside of the box. Often we think of these places, as I don't know where we might think them at, but you might find them in the church. You may find them, at school. It might be, the teacher, or maybe the college professor, or maybe someone a lot older than you that can help you. I think it is contingent. I think we just have to open our minds and our hearts to find those people. What we got to do first is get out of those places. Everybody's moved to DC with me. That's what we need.
If you're in one of those places though, and that's not an option, I think another thing you can do is try to put gentle signals out there to see how people respond to them. So for example, asking, what is your reaction to this celebrity who's out? Or what is your reaction to this show or this news article or what's happening? And seeing how people respond. There are certain ways that you can test the water in a gentle way to just get a sense of where people are at. And that might be a way to judge if you're considering, confiding in someone or sharing your story with them, that you can test the waters in advance to see what their reaction might be.
And I would say too is to try to get connected with community organizations, because for me, I found allies when attending summits like the 40-9 Summit, because I don't think I've ever had this many diverse group of friends or allies in my life, because I was so afraid that someone would judge me. I was so afraid that someone would ridicule me or deem me not worthy enough to be their friend. But what I've learned is that sometimes you just gotta put yourself, to me, I find allies in vulnerable communities. I like feeling vulnerable. That's my thing. Because I feel like it gives me the opportunity to really educate someone. And so I think you got to find people in your community who you notice. It may not have to be the gay issue, right? But just the Black movement or whatever it is, the fairy tale movement, if you want. And if they just support a movement, see if they're willing to join your movement and loving and accepting you.
I think that's really good. One thing I want to say too is I think with the online communities that we have now, I think a lot of people can find allies and people that they can talk to and be vulnerable with. In the online space, in the social media space, it connects us to so many communities. Yeah, I guess what we're doing.
What we're trying to do right now.
We're making friends via internet.
Exactly. We're all supporting you. No, I think that's such a great point. The internet and social media are, I think at its best, it's a great place for you to find other like-minded people all around the world, ask questions, get support, and kind of gain that confidence. So,
On that,
yes.
Do you want to start some one-on-ones with people?
Sure.
Get deeper into discussion.
Absolutely. Yes. How do we want to do that?
I'll go last.
That's how we do it. Any volunteers for first or? Tom?
Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay. Perfect.
Did you see that?
Yeah, we're totally matching each other's body language. We both crossed our legs at the exact same time. And sorry, I'm not being rude with my laptop in my lap. I just have it here to look at your questions. And also let me know, Nicholas, if we have any questions coming in from Periscope. So feel free to ask away for me and Tone. So the first thing I like to do, Tone, is I was so moved by your story, as was everyone who was in the audience today. And for people who are joining just for the post show, would you mind giving us a little bit of a summary about how you've come to today and the journey that you want to share with us?
Okay, yeah. So the beginning of the senior year of my high school, I had to leave home due to feeling unsafe in my house. So I was homeless for a while, and at the same time I was homeless, I began dealing with issues of police brutality, and that was really hard on top of being homeless. But fortunately, through again community orgs, I was connected with a community organization, and they actually my doctors who were prescribing me hormones, they took me in, but they're not my doctor anymore. And we got past that like legal job. So I was like,
Gotta put that caveat in there, yes.
Yeah, and so like, you know, connecting with community orgs again, reiterating how important that was. And so yeah, they basically helped me through getting through my senior year, and now I'm at UC Berkeley, first year, and
That's very exciting. You had a really powerful quote about intersectionality that a lot of people were retweeting and tweeting. Do you want to reshare that? And then I have a question about it for you.
Oh, the Audre Lorde?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. From my shiro, Audre Lorde. Read all about her if you don't know her. And yeah, okay. So the quote was, "We don't live There's no such
Sorry
thing.
to put you on the spot.
There's no such thing as a single issue struggle because we don't live single issue lives." And it's just promoting that our liberation is tied to the liberation of like all the communities we come from and the communities that we don't come from as well. Like we can't be free until we're all free.
There were a lot of questions that came up on Twitter during the discussion earlier around intersectionality and Black Lives Matter. Could you comment a little bit about the work that we've been discussing today and the initiatives going on for the LGBTQ community and how they intersect with Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, okay, that's so great because so often I hear Black Lives Matter, you know, like so often I hear it and a lot of people don't mention the context, like who like the people who created like this hashtag and this movement, Black Lives Matter, are queer women of color, you know, and it's not acknowledged, you know, that our communities aren't too extinct. They're not mutually exclusive categories. You know, I'm not Black in Black communities, and I'm not just queer in queer communities. I'm a queer Black person, and you know that needs to be like. That's why, like in queer spaces, we need to be fighting. We need to be fighting for the Black Lives Matter movement because it's not like there's no Black people in our community. So you know, it's just again intersectionality. We have so many identities, and when you come to a room, you don't just bring one of those identities. You bring all of them, and so it's important to acknowledge all of those identities.
And earlier today, you mentioned that you identify as non-binary. And so I'm curious, what advice would you give to anyone out there who identifies as non-binary about navigating spaces that might not feel like they're set up for them, or where, you know, you're forced to choose male or female, or the bathroom, there's the male sign and the female sign. What do you do in those kind of scenarios?
My advice, oh gosh, I was about to, well, in California, that's where I come from. We have this awesome bill, AB 1266, which allows transgender people to use the bathrooms that align with their gender identity. So if you're a non-binary person in California, like definitely if your schools don't have that, which is the case in a lot of high schools, you need to be keeping your administration accountable for that, because that is like a policy like on the books and it's illegal for them not to allow you to have that. But in spaces where that isn't accessible, again, just connecting with community organizations, connect with your LGBT center, going online, because those connections are so essential, because non-binary identities, like, again, aren't represented in the media a lot, and people think that, you know, we're a myth, or like it's not actually something that happens, and it's not true. You know, we're here, and obviously like we know this as non-binary people, and so just I think it's so important, like just gaining those connections so that, you know, you're not alone.
Nicholas, do you have any questions from social media or time check?
One from Unabridged Queer.
Okay.
What would
Love the
you say,
username. K.
What would you say are the best things a service provider can do when supporting LGBTQ youth experiencing homelessness?
Definitely not like tokenizing, because I felt that a lot, and like just using you for your story and not really acknowledging you like as a person. So I feel like it's important to acknowledge, you know, the person as a person and their story, and not just to hear the story, but to do something about, you know, that story, so that, you know, other youth don't have to go through that as well. And I had something in my head.
We can come back to it, or we can tweet it out. We can tweet it out later if it comes back to your mind. So I'm aware of time, Nicholas. How much more time do we have together? Because I could talk to Tone all day.
Yeah,
so.
we have maybe like 35 minutes left.
Okay.
So one person did have a question for Tony, which is what kind of self-care methods do you use on a regular
Do
basis?
I use? Okay, I've said it before. I talk to people, in those moments. I also play the guitar. You should check it out.
Oh, where can people find you?
You can find me, shameless plug.
Yes, I love a good shameless plug.
Revolutionary Queer _. Yes, check it out. Posting great things on there.
What social media site is that on?
Instagram.
Instagram. Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I have some awesome guitar videos on there. Like, and listening to music, and especially listening to classical music. I know people are like, classical music, so boring. But like, honestly, like just hearing that piano and like, it's just so soothing. Or like going on walks or pretending your life is a movie. Like, I wanted to say this earlier, like self-care, pretend your life is a movie. Like, if you're feeling like super low, just be like, what? This is a movie. Like, my happy ending is coming soon. Like, just like
I love that advice.
Be creative, be imaginative. Like, you just have to get yourself away from all the negative thoughts that are bombarding you. Like, if you're in bed, crying your heart out and curling up in a ball, I'm saying this in detail because I just did this like a month ago. So like, we're all going through it. You need to like pull yourself out of that bed. You have to get the strength to get out of that bed and surround yourself with other people, because that's what it takes. It's what it takes, get yourself out of those situations.
That's a very beautiful and powerful note to end on. I love that advice. Picture your life as a movie, and you're the lead character. You deserve to be heard. You deserve love. You deserve respect for yourself, and you're going to make it through and have that happy ending. So, well, thank you so much for sharing your story and chatting with us today. And everyone, make sure that you follow Tone on Instagram. You want to share it again?
Yeah, Revolutionary Queer
_ Listen to their music, their guitar, leave some comments, and I hope that we'll get a chance to chat again soon. Thank you. All right, who's coming up next? I see Zig over here. I see Sol over here. All right, come on over. All right. Welcome back.
Hi.
How are you? How are you feeling?
Good.
Good. This is one of the first times that you shared your story in such a public forum. Is that right?
Yes.
How did it feel to you?
Not easy because it's not easy to speak English. So maybe.
English
I
is
speak
Sol's
French.
third language, yes.
Yeah, so
Well, I thought that you did an amazing job, very articulate. I mean, it's not only nerve-wracking to just do public speaking in your native language, and then the fact that you talked about such personal things in your third language, you were phenomenal. So congrats.
thank you so much.
You're very welcome. So what was the main message that you wanted people to take from hearing your story today?
Yes, my most important message is that I want you to show to everybody LGBT people has too much problem, but it's not only here in the United States. It's in each part of this world.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanna tell them to try to hear from them. Like, if you try, it's true. Too much people try fight for the LGBT people right here in the United States, but it's not the same thing in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Because while we got discrimination against LGBT people in Africa, they have anywhere to go to complain. Here, you can go to the center here. You have too much center where you can go and talk and try to find some solution for your problem.
Mm-hmm.
But over there, they cannot. They don't have anywhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
And they just want to try to bring some solution for that.
Mm-hmm. What were your resources, or where did you find that hope or that knowledge while you were in Africa about the community, about your own personal identity, and kind of what ultimately led you to come to the US?
Why come to the US? Because I was sure if I get here, I will have too much acceptance. Like, United States is a country, a freedom country, or everybody can do what they want to do, because too much people fight here for the right. So when I was in Africa, my dream was to go back to San Francisco because San Francisco was like when I see gay people over there, I'm really excited. You know,
It's that iconic image, right?
Yes,
It's the
because-
Castro in San Francisco.
Yeah, because they got no people, nobody can tell you what you have to do or something like that. Organize. Over there is like for everybody.
Mhm.
That's why I try to go over there. That's why I left Africa. I just told myself, oh, I have just to get out here and try to find my own.
Mhm. What were those first couple of things that you did once you had moved to the US to find that community and find that support system?
Yes, I tried to find support assistant when I get to New York City. When I start to go to LGBT center,
Mhm.
and after that, I meet with Curry to Lambda Legal
Mhm.
who bring me too much assistance because if it's not for them, I don't gonna be here to share my story.
Mhm.
And I want really to thanks and to tell them I really love them because they are my family.
That's wonderful. I want to take any questions from Periscope or Twitter that you might have for Sloan in particular. And while you're thinking of your brilliant question and tweeting it out, another question that I would have for you is, what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about LGBTQ youth who are experiencing homelessness?
Here or back home?
Whichever one you'd like to answer.
I think you can answer back home because to be homeless over there is really very hard. Like we don't have too much homeless people, LGBT homeless people over there because if you are homeless over there, you can do anything because you have to choose what they want or to be homeless. So the fact to be homeless over there really is not easy. So you just have to be what you want to be.
Mhm. Do you feel that pressure to have to conform to what society is telling you you should be?
Yeah, because for them to be LGBT, it's against it's against their religion and their traditional things.
Mhm.
But the question I want to ask them is, if we don't find LGBT people in their community, because over there, it's true they say, oh, to be LGBT over there, like in our culture, we cannot be LGBT, or they got too much LGBT people over there. Though how we can explain this thing?
Mhm.
Like I just want to say it's not something we have to talk about because we cannot bring the fact to be gay and religion stuff or something like that. We don't have to talk about it. I want just them to let everybody be what they want to be.
Mhm.
That's it.
I completely agree with that. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, here's one from Link Repeat on Twitter. How can we make conferences, resources, programs, and events more accessible to LGBTQ homeless youth?
In Africa?
Here.
Here?
Yeah.
Can you repeat?
Yeah. So how can we make conferences, resources, programs, and events more accessible to LGBTQ homeless youth?
I think we can make it happen by the center because I think here when somebody have problem, we should go to the LGBT center
Mhm.
because for me, my experience, if I'm here to talking to you, it's good because I went to LGBT and I found assistant there. And I just talked with them and they was here for me and helped me for everything. So I just think everything is about communication and the fact to have center, LGBT center here is a great idea because from this we can make everything happen.
Huge shout out to the LGBT Center who helped out Seoul with bringing you here and all the services that they provided since you arrived in the US. And thanks again for sharing your story today. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Nicholas, who's next? Did I scare everyone out?
Is Roxanne?
The room just cleared, so let's see is Roxanne available? How's everyone doing? Any questions from Periscope? Is anyone in Periscope? Okay, great.
We had some awesome comments. Be the lead in your life. So
Yes.
the
Yes,
support.
I love that. Well, hello again. Welcome back, Ziggy.
Hello.
You want to sit?
Sure.
Okay, can we first just have a moment to appreciate Ziggy's hair?
Oh yeah, I think my girlfriend, she's magical and talented and has patience because I don't.
Do you want to give a little model shot for it?
Anytime.
Awesome. So you were one of the star panelists of last year's forum. Do you want to talk a little bit about what's happened for you in the past year and some of the things that you saw that were maybe different as part of the dialogue this year, and then also some commonalities?
The differences from this year and last year, it was still on intersectionality, but it was based a lot more like in schools
Okay.
and in the spaces we inhibit, like themselves,
Mhm.
lesser so than the intersectionality that we face individually as people everywhere,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Definitely.
Like I spoke a lot about like things that should be included in schools and how things can change in certain spaces and how to make queer spaces themselves,
Mhm.
as opposed to I'm non-binary and this is how I exist in the planet versus this is how I exist on campus or
That's
at
right.
home or
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people that are watching are youth who identify as LGBTQ+. So what sort of advice would you give to them for navigating their school space specifically, finding that community or finding the support and resources that are available to help them succeed?
awkwardly enough, regardless of where you are, you have your people. You just don't know that they are your people.
Mhm.
Because one of the challenges of being queer, like, is that you don't want to, depending on where you are, you can't just outrightly be yourself. So you're kind of in your own internal closet,
Mhm.
which is way worse than like making an active decision because you're bottling yourself up and you're just not expressive.
Mhm.
So I think a main point that I'd give to people is to like go online, not to be funny, just like there's a lot of like resources online. There's a lot of people you can talk to. Like I know with like, especially with like trans-related things, YouTube is like a huge database of people. Yeah.
You know I love YouTube. That's no surprise to anyone up in here.
Right? YouTube has like a huge database of people. Tumblr's amazing as long as you're aware that not everything on Tumblr is true. But Tumblr's amazing though, and like I have Tumblr and if anything that gives you a stepping stone to being your authentic self, if not in the real world, out like online, and that correlates to the real world. Because I know when I was like 13 and awkward, I was on Tumblr just looking up stuff and reading stuff. But my Tumblr became so much more queer than I became in real life out into the planet because no one was watching me. But as I got more comfortable with myself online, I became such a better person, like so much more comfortable with myself that it became that I was a different person offline too.
So you use some of the tools and experiences and resources you found online to feed into your personal life. That's really great. Do you want to give a shout out to any specific YouTubers or resources on Tumblr that were really helpful in your own personal
I can't
journey?
remember. Tumblr resources are hard because they're like long.
Yes.
But like Chase Ross is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And like FTM Trantastic is awesome.
We have to check that out.
Yeah, there's a lot of like awesome YouTubers, and I wish I could shout y'all out, but like that requires me going on my phone and scrolling. Scarlett the Lebanon's really cool. Ryan Casada did a really big thing with the American Idol YouTube thing.
Yes.
Did you see that?
I did. I did.
That was epic.
Yes.
So like a lot of big things are happening through the internet. And part of it's because the internet's always been relatively queer friendly because it was the only place where queer people could be queer.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And now it's becoming a thing where like it's spilling over into more of the media.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you watch The Fosters?
I do.
Did you see the thing with Cole where like you finally saw someone with like actual top surgery scars on TV?
Mm-hmm.
That's
amazing.
that doesn't happen. Yeah, that never happened. And it's just like amazing. So yeah.
I love that. I think that there's so much positive social change that you can create through media, entertainment, and technology. And the more diverse characters are in all the forms of media that we consume, the better. I see you right over there, Nicholas. Do we have any questions that are coming in?
Sure do, from KAB Corwin on.
Oh, hey, Kim. I know Kim. Sorry, she's one of my
That's
Twitter
always a great
heroes,
question
friend.
too. It's how can youth shelters accommodate the needs of non-binary youth specifically?
A good way to like, I think a good way to go about that is to ask them their needs. Because I've gone so many places where no one asks your pronouns, or like Tone had said initially during his, their talk, was along the lines of, you look more like this, so we're gonna put you over here. Because I experienced so much of that. Because like now I've noticed that when people can't tell, they tend to just go kid. Like at work, I work at Macy's. So they'll go, oh, the little kid with the green hair. And I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. But I think as far as like shelters go, I think asking what they prefer. Because sometimes they want to be grouped with a specific gender just to make it easier, because you might not feel comfortable changing in a space full of certain people. Or there can be, same way how there's gender inclusive like restrooms now, there can be a gender inclusive space. Because if everyone identifies the same way and has the same request, it doesn't make it an obstacle, it makes a space. Even if it's just like cisgendered people who are inclusive of everyone and are just like, yeah, you can room here. As long as everyone's okay and you make that an inclusive space for everyone, you don't even have to make it a non-binary space. You can just make it a gender inclusive space itself, and then you have no issues.
I talked a little bit with this about this with Tone earlier, but I love your personal experience as well. What recommendations do you have for people who identify as non-binary about navigating spaces that don't feel like they're set up or that they're accommodating for you?
You end up making your own space. Because unfortunately, the world isn't going to accommodate you. So you're going to make your own space, and eventually you'll make enough noise, and they're going to learn how to accommodate more people like you, because it's not going to just be you. Like, before being non-binary had a word, you were just weird. But now it has a word, and there's so many people that can identify with just that. So I think the more non-binary people come out and exist and say what they are and announce their PGPs and all that, the better it becomes. Yeah.
One of the themes of today has been for LGBTQ youth to share their stories and create change through hearing these stories and uplifting visibility. What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have around LGBTQ youth, particularly those who have experienced homelessness?
I think a lot of people tend to think that we brought it on to ourselves. I think they go, you made a decision, so now you're homeless. But that's not really what happens. I was myself and got exiled for that. Or I was in this space with this person and somebody else disapproved of it. It's not, nobody wakes up and says, you know, I think I'll live under the bridge today. Like that's not a common thought. A lot of it is that it's a lot of like victim blaming, because when you're in a space, when you're in a situation that puts you at a disadvantage and they go, well, it's your fault for being gay. It's your fault for being trans. That A, doesn't make you feel better, and B, isn't the problem, because you're blaming a person for being themselves. And if they're not themselves, who else are they going to be?
Reach to that. Well, thank you so much, Ziggy, for sharing your story. Daniela, do you have time to sit down, or are you on your way out? I just put Daniela on the spot over there.
She lives on the spot.
Do you want to come on?
The car is coming in 7 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So I left you a note actually.
You need. I was watching Daniela's wallet for her, so I'm guessing that's what the note's about, maybe.
No,
oh, you're just grabbing from my bag.
I forgot.
Oh, okay. Okay. So Daniela's about.
To set up something.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
It's like 7 minutes.
All right, sounds, do you want to come sit down for like 3 minutes? All right, Danielle Card is going to join us for a couple minutes before her car gets here. Thanks.
We have some other Periscope questions
Okay.
too. You wanna
Awesome.
start with those?
Hello. Hi. We're reunited again. Danielle was one of my first ever YouTube collabs, one of my favorite videos that I've ever done. So you better check that out, youtube.com/Raymond Braun if you haven't already, because we'll get into Danielle's story a little bit. But let's hear a couple of Periscope questions before Danielle has to go.
Yeah, so most recent one was, what are some suggestions for getting through hard times aside from just talking to someone?
Putting her on the spot again.
No, I'm like getting through hard time. What worked for me, I guess, was mapping out a plan of what at least tomorrow looks like. So I would say it's not about putting so much pressure on yourself and say, what does the next 5 years look like, right? Because you're living in that adversity. So you're living day to day. So how could you really say authentically that you're creating a plan? I don't know,
I think that's some great advice.
tangible, but I'm just thinking like, I'm trying to be authentic too, right? Because for me, it wasn't about just the conversation or going to the organizations. It was like knowing what I deserve. And I remember saying in my first TED talk is that when we don't know that we deserve to be loved, how are we even able to not only just project that to people, but receive it in a way where we're not always feeling vulnerable, right? Because we all live in a world where we want to be loved, but many of us don't know how to start that process of loving someone else, let alone loving ourselves. So yeah.
What was that evolution of self-love like for you?
Like I said in the video, wake up and serve every day of your life. But no,
You did a little hair flip too.
No, self-love. For me, it was about, at such a young age, having to go through gender transition at a prep school. I knew, like, from my peers that I was not going to be accepted by them. So it was like, they showed me just being the only Black male in the school that it was not going to be easy. So I already knew what I was getting into when I was transitioning. And every day I kind of just live by this motto where loving myself is more important than loving someone else, because I'm still on that journey. You know, I'm on the journey of how do I love myself in a way that's not harmful to others? Because I learned that, like, when you're in a community where people are struggling, it's this, I don't know, this level of like unity and just support that you get. But when you're successful, you're very lonely. And so I think so many of us think the notion of what success looks like is to be surrounded by many, to have a lot of money, and to be able to do what you want when you want. But if you don't have the integrity, or at least the self-care to know to love yourself and not take advantage of what you have, or not take advantage of the resources out there, you'll continue to live in not only pain, but in adversity.
Wow. Yeah. Danielle and I could talk forever, but I know you've got a car to catch.
Yes.
So I'm going to give you a hug.
Thank you.
And I'll see you a little bit later.
Yes, you going to reception?
Yes.
Okay.
Be sure to check out the video that Danielle and I made. And how are we for time, Nicholas?
Time, we got 10 minutes.
10
we also
minutes.
have 10% battery.
Okay. All right. So we'll try to only hit 1 percentage point every minute. Do we have anyone else who wants to come in, or are we straight from the barrel?
There.
Okay.
We had another question that I guess we could just answer.
Okay.
Generally.
In this group. Yeah.
It was, so kind of story. I just started college and now I'm back in the closet.
Okay.
When is the best time to come out?
Okay.
I gotta deal with that because when I went to college, my freshman year in college, you know, I knew that for me, and living in New York City, it was like, it was so many examples of my identity. So it would be easy to pinpoint, hey, yeah, she's trans. But I knew living in a community where there's not much representation, let alone reflection of my identity, that it would be a little bit easier. So, but when I got there, I was surprised, right? Because what started to happen was the questions of, so why are you trans? Or it would be, why are you gay? Or why are you lesbian? It's very critical that you don't focus on the people who's there that don't support you. Because in college, I've learned that it's such an inclusive and diverse community that, yeah, you may not get your friends in your dorm, but you may find your friends in the dorms across from you. And so it's really important to connect yourself with people whose understanding of the coming out process. And then getting those friends who don't have a clue what that means. Because it's critical. I feel like it's just very important that you learn to love and accept yourself again. because that's the same love that you will receive from others, because it's the love you're giving them. And so ask yourself, when do you dare to begin to love yourself? Because that's the first step to coming out. Loving yourself enough to know that I don't have to care about what people think about me. I don't have to wait for the acceptance. I am my own acceptance.
That's great.
Yeah, and that's my piece. But I got to go.
I have a couple things on the coming out process as well. I think that, as we talked about earlier, bye Daniela, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but finding someone who you can confide in, who you think is likely to be an ally, who can give you that affirmation and support, and also just serve as a sounding board for you as you're exploring your identity, whether it's your sexual orientation, gender identity, both. That's a huge step in just having that person that you can confide in. And then I think it's really important as you're considering coming out too, to assess the safety of it. Are you in an environment where there's a potential that you could get kicked out, or you could lose a job, or something adverse could happen to you for being open and authentic about who you are? Because in those cases, a lot of times it's helpful to think about a contingency plan or a strategy of what to do if that worst case scenario does happen. And again, that ties back to talking to and sharing your story with an ally or someone who can then be there for you in case you need that couch to crash on for a couple of nights or a couple of weeks, or you need to find that additional resource for getting some money to get yourself back on your feet. Do you have any other questions?
We have some Ziggy fans.
Okay, Ziggy. You want to come back?
Okay. I don't want you to hand your phone at me. I'll just sit and make your life easy.
Yeah.
What's up, party people?
So here's one. It's Ziggy. It's from Unabridged Queer. What can we
Hey,
do?
Unabridged Queer.
Yeah, right.
They're asking some good questions.
What can we do as adults to foster and support more LGBTQ youth leadership?
You have to speak to the young people. Making LGBTQ youth, what was the word? The last one?
Leadership.
Yeah, to foster leadership, you have to make an open space where they can be themselves, because the more inclusive you make your space, the more people will come. And the more people will come, you're going to have the ones that stand out, the ones that say what's on their mind, the ones that say what really matters. And people listen to that and they follow those people, but they also like to follow their example and stand up for what they believe in too. Because a lot of queer youth leadership, a lot of that is they had to lead themselves to their own realization, and they want to help and lead others. So when you make an open space, an open forum for everyone to come in, like how I can come in here and tell you guys what I think. I know for every one person that's really touched by something I say, something any one of us has said, they're thinking about, how can I make that something I can do? How can I change what's near me? Because I know I live in New York, so I have a lot of opportunities that you don't have in like a small town in Ohio. But just
work, that's where I'm from.
just because of location. But when you hear things like that, you need to listen. You need to find the ones that are near you and see what they need, what they want changed, because nobody's gonna know what's gonna help us better than us. So you just need to make a space where they can exist and be.
I love that. No one's gonna know what's better to help us than us. And I think that's one of the things that this summit and that True Colors has done so well, in my opinion, is just shining a light on stories and giving a platform to people to advocate for themselves and to share their own story and expressiveness. So is that a good note to end on, Nicholas?
Perfect.
Okay, great.
Nice.
Well, thank you so much, everyone who tuned in to the State of Out Youth panel and to our little after show, Google Plus, Periscope party. And please keep the dialogue going. You can submit questions, ideas, thoughts with the hashtag OutYouthSummit and hashtag 40to9, that's 40. And we're gonna continue to get involved with this conversation as the summit continues tonight and all day tomorrow. So thanks again. And if you have any questions for me, I'm at Raymond Braun on all social media forums. I'm gonna be making a YouTube video, hopefully talking to all the wonderful people that you've seen in this after show. That's a recap of True Colors that will be coming out within the next week or so. So gotta get that shameless self-promo in.
Right.
But thanks again, everyone. Bye.
Bye, Internet.